Today we're in the hustle and bustle of the collaborative space of the Western Cafe at the London School of Economics, talking to Julian Robinson, the Facilities and Estates Director and newly the Chair of the HEDQF. Good morning, Julian.
Good morning.
And congratulations on the first day in appointment as Chair of the HEDQF.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so this morning we want to explore collaboration in design development. And we've discussed before that most of the time now the focus is on the delivery team when talking about collaboration. But you believe that there is advantage and value to be had in starting that collaboration earlier and taking that through the design development process. So if it's okay with you, we'll take 3 different points and just explore those. Firstly, the advantage. What do you see as the advantages and the potential added value of the collaboration within the design development phase?
A building project can take as long as 4 or 5 years, so it's a long-term relationship with your design team, and it's a very critical stage right at the beginning, we believe, to actually make sure that you have people you can work with, and you really need to get that right from the beginning. It's no good discovering sort of a third of the way through that maybe you're not getting. So we take the view that we actually want to get to know the prospective design teams actually during the competition stage. And so we go to their studios, see them in their own habitat if you like, and actually make an assessment of how they're working together with their design colleagues, but also, more importantly, how they relate to us. Part of the process is them taking us around their buildings and just engaging with us, and how open are they with us, what sort of characters do they have, and how do they actually sort of relate to the client. It's not just a case of impressing us, but actually can they open up to the client, can they share, can they listen to the client. So that interim design workshop is incredibly important and forms part of the assessment criteria when they come to the formal jury panel stage, and then there's a sort of a formal assessment made. In terms of the value of that, it means that we can hit the ground running with the design. So rather than having that rather difficult sort of formative stage of a relationship where you're trying to sort of suss each other out, we've already done that. We've already, if you like, assessed the personalities and the characters and taken a view that yes, we can work with these guys. So when you get into the design stage, under traditional sort of process, it's fairly regimented, and so you will have sort of packages of information at various of the design stages of the project. They all sort of work those up, then they're submitted, is then sort of signed off as a gateway process, go along like that. Where we work with designers, architects that we actually have that sort of good rapport with, they're constantly sending sketches through to us, constantly sending through ideas, can we just test this with you? And I suppose that is based on trust, that they know that if I think something's rubbish, then I'll say it, and there's nothing sort of implied there. It's just sort of, no, don't waste your time with that, that's not actually going to make a brief. Rather than sort of, them spending lots and lots of time on stuff, then coming to us, get it all in a nice presentation pack, so well, no, actually that's not what we wanted. So to me that saves an awful lot of time on both parts, but it requires commitment from the client. So you've actually got to give of your time, because then you'll get it back in spades, and you'll find yourself very much involved in the whole design process, and it is collaboration rather than information submission and sign off. Now that might work in a very sort of straightforward building, but the types of buildings that the LSE does, very, very nuanced, very complicated briefs, multiple stakeholders, you have to have that constant two-way collaboration right from the very beginning of the project.
So as you say there, a shift from a sign-off to, as the term implies, real design development on the job.
Yes, absolutely.
So on your projects then, Julian, how do you go about setting that culture?
So in setting the culture for the project, I think the fundamental thing required is trust. And it's important for the design team to get to know us and vice versa. Like we've already talked about, that we do that right from the beginning by going to their workshops. And I think unless you can establish that trust, that the architects feel comfortable being able to sort of share their sort of fears, their concerns, their vision, their ambition with us, then you're basically sort of, you can have a little bit of a standoff. People don't want to sort of open up. So we quite often will start off with a project event. Now these are quite common in the industry, as you know. But it could even be having a sort of dinner with them, or just going down the pub and just getting to know the characters behind the design team. And more often than not, that pays dividends because, as I say, it's the start of a long-term relationship, and you know, I suppose it's like sort of, you know, sort of when you're going out with your first sort of girlfriend or boyfriend, that you know, you're actually sort of trying to impress each other, but you're also trying to get to know each other, and it's that understanding between you that is actually going to be the hallmark of a long-term relationship. So, as I say, founded on trust, them feeling comfortable that actually you're a client that they can be open with, because the more open everyone is, then I genuinely think that you get a better product at the end of the day.
So, given that value output, is there anything that you do and that you can do to monitor the effectiveness of those relationships along the way and the likely impact that that's having on your development of design towards the final end goal of a superior product?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the themes of my talk to ResoLex, is that it's an attitude of mine, but it's also an ongoing process. So you can't just sort of say at the outset of a project, yeah, we want it to be collaborative, and then not actually walk the walk. You actually have to have quite a acute antenna, and I think it's the client's responsibility. You know, don't outsource it to consultants to sort of do it for you. You need to be in there, sort of listening to all the different sort of parties that make up the project team, and then trying to sort of like meld that together. So we do that. It's very much about sort of listening and speaking to the different parties, and then if something is not right, something's not gelling, then I genuinely think, you know, the client has to step in and sort that out. So an example on a particular project, the site managers just didn't gel. It was disruptive to the sort of dynamic of the team, and so we stepped in, we spoke to the contractor, and actually we replaced the site agent. And that was instrumental in a forming a completely different sort of working relationship, which became much more collaborative, much more productive. Also as well, I mean, design can be very, very intense, and bless them, and I'll say this, you know, architects can be very precious, more often than not quite rightly so, and you know, project managers can be very sort of, and cost consultants can be very direct, very tough, very analytical, and it's trying to sort of meld that together. And you're always going to have times when someone feels a bit sort of bit hurt or a bit sensitive to sort of some criticism. But again, it's the job of the client, and if they trust the client, they know that actually, look, I have to employ all of you guys to make this project work, But you know what my vision is. You've been selected for a reason. It's not just sort of, a tick box thing. You've been selected because we really want you to design this job. But I have to have the rest of the team because that's going to make this project work. And again, it's sort of stepping in there at an early stage, and metaphorically bashing heads together, or saying to the project manager, "Now you need to go over and see them. You need to go and sit in their offices and get a better understanding." And that's the way we work. So we constantly sort of monitor it through. When we get to the end of the project, so how do you measure the success of that collaboration? Well, I mean, we will, on previous projects we've done sort of DQI, so we've used those indicators and we've interviewed people during the course of the project. But of course, basically we want everyone to feel that they've got something and they've achieved their objectives out of the project. So everyone, apart from the client, needs to know that they've actually sort of made money out of it. That's business. The client needs to know that it's got the product which actually meets its design brief, and we've had it on time and on budget. Now, it's very easy to say all those things, but if we haven't sort of completely sort of screwed down the consultants and the contractor, which at the LSE we don't, because at the end of the day, you pay your money, you take your choice, and you're going to be a very, very lucky client. If you're just sort of bottom lining it the whole time, you're not going to get the product you want. So we are our occupiers. We can't have sort of cut price shoddy buildings at the LSE, so they have to have that quality about them. So I suppose it does give us a sort of advantage that we're not going to sort of drop it and hop it and sort of make our money and then sort of sell it on to somebody else. So we like to convey those messages to our consultants, to say we are here for the long term, and we maybe have a different value set to the majority of other developers.
So Julian, thank you ever so much for your time again, and for those thoughts around why you go to the trouble of the process that you do, giving us an insight into that collaborative process that you do take your design team through, and how that adds value into the project and how you can measure that at the end. So thank you very much indeed.
A pleasure.